Favorite performance I've ever done. It wasn't even a performance. I was there as a fan. It was a show that happened in Middle East, Cambridge. Can't remember the exact year or even the exact date, but I do remember the artists that were there. Sky Zoo, rapper Sky Zoo was headlining the show that day, and Boston-based or Lawrence-based rapper Terminology was opening up. But before he opened up, he gave the opportunity to some like MCs that were in the crowd if they wanted to do a rap battle tournament. I was there with producer Evildoer from Chelsea, Mass, and he pushed me to go on stage. I didn't want to go. My ego was like, I'm better than these people. So I'm like, I don't even want to like go up there and kill them. I think I entered my first battle, killed them, sat back. The other two rappers went, and it was entertaining to watch because everybody's flowing from off the dome, you know, like off top. And my second battle, I go upstage, but I had a drink in my hand. I was 20 at the time. So now the date is coming back. This is probably around like 2010 or 2009. And I had a drink in my hand, and I'm not 21. The bouncer sees it, but the cool thing about it was I'm killing this dude, rapping-wise, in the battle, and he lets me finish. So I love that he let me finish destroying him, and he asks me to get off stage, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, unfortunately, I have to kick you out. You're underage, drinking. And I'm like, damn, this sucks, but it was cool because people got to see, like, who is this guy? Like, where did he come from? I was not known yet in Boston at all. So to be able to, like, go up there, kill these two kids, and then, like, be kicked out, but I left home on that train ride. I was like, I did what I came here to do, man. Like, and I was there to showcase people that I'm good at what I do. Something I think doesn't get talked about as much or even brought up in music or just the art world, period, I think is respecting the boundaries of artists. And what I mean by that is, I mean, we all just went through a pandemic. And I'm sure for a lot of people that was a different, none of us have been through it. So different people experienced it in many different ways. I took a year and a half off music and creating during the pandemic. There was a lot of health issues going on, mental health, physical health. And I think what I found kind of upsetting was more of like people not respecting my capacity at the moment, either to create or drop music. To this day, whether I'm having issues or not, I don't like dropping music unless I'm at 100% feeling my best. Creating music, have I created music during tough times? Absolutely. But I think just last year was more of a time like, all right, let me take a break. Let me find some rest, you know? And I think when it wasn't being respected by my peers, by fans, and people were like, you know, you're falling off, like, or they're saying like, you know, if you don't drop music, people are gonna forget you. I was like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with taking that risk. And I feel like that was something, or is something that people don't talk about a lot. And it happens to even the big artists, you know? Like people questioning why Adele's not dropping music or Kendrick Lamar's not dropping music. But it's like, they're humans at the end of the day. We don't know what they're going through. Yeah, they're entertainers as well, but at the end of the day, they can't entertain you if they're not feeling themselves 100%, you know? And sometimes do we work through the pain? Absolutely. But I'm a big mental health advocate, and I think that it's not healthy to work through issues that need healing. And mental health is something that I feel even rappers are scared to talk about. They're scared to say, like, I feel sad. They're scared to look weak. But, like, being vulnerable is not weak. It's like you letting go of stuff that you don't really need anymore in your life, you know? Like, things don't have to be negative. Like, if you release the negative things publicly, then inwardly, within you, you're creating a more positive space for you to be able to live comfortably with yourself and amongst other people. So I think just like, you know, telling hip-hop fans and other MCs and rappers, it's okay to have a breakdown. It's okay to be burnt out. It's okay to, like, step away for a moment. The fans might not be there when you get back. But when you first started creating music, you didn't have any of that. So it doesn't matter. If you come back, it gives you an opportunity to create different fans. You know, different people that never even knew you existed or your music existed. That's what I'm excited about. Like, it doesn't matter if I have the same fan base anymore, because now I look forward to building a new one and building upon whoever stuck around, you know. So stacking those fans amongst them, I think, is the exciting part, to see how my music's received. And, you know, when you create music, yes, for yourself, but once you release it publicly, then now it belongs to them. It belongs to the listener. And seeing how they dissect it and digest it, it's going to be the fun part for me. I feel like the music industry today has its pros and cons. There's a lot of people that have made it within the industry based on clout or popularity, and not necessarily the music itself. And so a lot of gimmicks and trends is what sells the most. And I mean, there's an art to that as well, but it's not necessarily my cup of tea. I think the streaming sites have kind of ruined some of the money that artists can generate from their music and the net worth that we truly deserve. But there's also like a beauty in the music industry now where you don't have to necessarily be tied or signed to a record label. You don't really need a big budget. You could do it from home, you know. You could be an artist in your bedroom creating songs and releasing that to the public through social media and all these internet platforms and get rich and famous off that. But I think there's also this element that I kind of miss, where, especially in hip hop, where you would go to the streets and just rap, like rap in circles outside, gather people outside and have them like listen to you, like command a room or command like an audience somewhere and be able to capture the people's ear. I remember going from city to city, state to state, trying to find ways to get booked for a show. I don't really see artists doing that like nowadays, you know? Because everybody has the internet, so they can just easily upload something and the world will hear it. And it's probably amazing work. But that element was fun. As strenuous as it was when, you know, the upbringing and the music, it was fun being able to like showcase to yourself that this is possible. I can achieve it. I can do it. I just have to push myself to limits that I haven't been pushed to before. And you don't really see that nowadays in the music industry. The first hip-hop record or taste that I had was maybe 5 years old. My godfather used to DJ at this place called Wonderland in Revere, and they had tape cassettes back then. And I had, my mom had bought me this Fisher-Price, like, boombox, where, like, you could play cassettes, and, like, it had a little microphone. And at the time, he had given me a lot of tapes that had, like, house music, had hip-hop music, and I believe, like, pop music, because there was a lot of Madonna and Janet Jackson in there. But one of the two albums I noticed and fell in love with was the Fugees' The Score and Wu-Tang Enter the 36 Chambers. When I first heard those two cassettes, my mind went crazy as a 5-year-old. I'm like, what is this? This sounds raw. This sounds like that sounds like stuff that like I can see outside my window happening. Like I was seeing drug deals happen in front of my face out the window. 5 years old, didn't understand what that even was. I didn't even know what drugs were, you know? But like as an adult, now you think back and reflect and you're like, this was happening. And I remember just getting my first taste of hip hop at 5 years old, starting to write rhymes 9 years old, and like at first just making it poetry, but then finding rhythm to it, cadence. And then by 12, it was like when 9/11 actually happened, I feel the whole world was fixated on that. But Jay-Z had dropped his album, The Blueprint. And I remember telling my brother, like, buy me this album, like I need to hear it. None of us knew what was gonna happen that day in New York. And he had bought the album. He came home after school with it. And I remember just listening to that because there was nothing to really watch on TV. All the news was fixated on the Twin Towers and the attack. And I remember listening to Jay-Z, and he was rapping in a way that to me was like superhero mode. Like when you're watching Batman or Superman, like really take over the screen, you know. To me at that point, I'm like, this is what I want to do. He's who I want to like kind of like be inspired by. And from there on, I was like, I'm going to take this serious. And, you know, from 12, I'm 33 now, there were steps, obviously. Learning how to like rap in different ways, experimenting to find your own sound. There was times I tried to sound like other rappers just because I thought they sounded the best to me. But like as you grow, you realize I want one day someone to try to sound like me, not necessarily entirely like me, but I want to be the influence for somebody else. So I need my own sound, my own cadence, and you know, I started just being who I am now, like just being my true self, my real stories, and giving people the sound that I love to hear, you know. I would describe my creative process as me taking time to reflect, whether that's on literature, movies, film, art, paintings, museums. I like to tap into all those other different mediums to see what emotion they were trying to evoke with their form of art. And from there, if I find something very interesting, I'm like, I wonder how I can connect that to my story, to my personality, to something that I probably haven't shared before. So definitely getting in tune with like just the real world, you know, and seeing other artists do it, but in different mediums. I think that helps me like tap into my own medium that I feel comfortable in expressing myself. Like even watching like someone do filming, you know, if you're filming a documentary or just watching that process of someone doing that, I'm like, I love seeing other artists show their process because then I can relate to certain aspects of their process. And I'm like, I do that too, but just in a different way, you know. I think every trend, even if it sounds good, can be used a little less. For example, there's an artist, Rock Marciano, in the underground scene, who's hailed as probably the greatest underground rapper ever. To me, he's probably the greatest rapper of all time, to me. Just what he does. And I think a lot of people try to mimic his style, where he sounds like a smooth talking pimp, but that also like puts in there his life experiences and makes it sound cool, kind of like superhero, like, you know, like the charismatic Bruce Wayne. That's him for the hood, you know? And I think everybody tries to emulate that. And yeah, it sounds good. It's what I like to hear, but I like to hear it from him, the originator. I don't really want to hear it from like his clones or his mini-me's. But when it comes to even hip hop styles that I don't really like trap and stuff like that, and some trap is good because it's fun. I love hearing the different cadences they play with. Personally, I wouldn't, you know, entertain that lane, because I like to stick in my lane, but explore just a little, like sonically, more than I do like with what they're doing. Even those trends can become boring, but I love that hip hop gives room or headroom to like anybody that's willing to come out with a different style. Like even if I'm not kin to it, I'm like, okay, I love that you're trying that and there's an audience for that, you know?
So what you're saying is artists should stick to being original than just jumping on the bandwagon with the latest trend.
Correct. I think artists should just be themselves. If you're doing something because that's truly you, absolutely 100%, like I love that. But if you're trying to emulate someone because it was successful for them, then I don't think, you know, it's good to be inspired, but it's also, there's a limitation to how much you borrow from that inspiration.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you'd like to hear more of Magno's work, see the links in the description below. Until then, see you in the next video.